Can you hear us?
I can, and can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good.
Okay, I'd like to call the regular city council meeting at City of Tomball, Texas to order. We would like to invite you to join the council in our opening ceremonies. Our prayer will be by Bruce Hillegeist, and our pledges will be by Drew Huffman.
Well, good evening, council, men and women and audience. Thank you for the privilege of allowing me to have the opening prayer this evening. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you praise for this evening where we can come in freedom and be carefree as we walk the streets to attend this city council meeting. We thank you for those who you have put into leadership. We know that their jobs can be tough. Just pray that you provide your godly wisdom to each and every one, that tonight, with all of the distractions that may come their way, and from the and also to the audience, that we can concentrate on what your will would be here for our fair city. Lord, you blessed us with an awesome community. And we always ask for your blessings, but Lord, what we want to do this evening is really to ask that we bless you, and we do bless you, Lord. We thank you for being our Father and our Savior, our Lord Jesus. We certainly don't deserve your mercy and your grace, but thank you so much, Lord, for the love that you show for us, that love that's infinite. And tonight, we want to lift up Lisa Townsend in her time of need. Lisa, and we just ask, Lord, that Lisa be healed. That's number one. We do, though, abide by your will. And we also pray for Derek and his family, that you give them encouragement and hope. Their living hope, our living hope as Christians, is in you. And there's no bad news when it comes to that, Lord. So we give you thanks for all you've done for us. And we just pray that we just thank you, Lord, for being our special guest tonight in this room. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Pledge to the American flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Justice. To the Texas flag. The Texas flag. That allegiance to Texas, one state under God.
Thank you. At this time, next item on the agenda is public comments and receipt of petition. Anyone will be allowed to speak on any matter not to exceed, except on personnel matters or matters under litigation, for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. No council board discussion or action may take place on a matter until such matter has been placed on the agenda and posted in accordance with the law. Doris, do we have anyone signed up to speak? Bruce Hillegeist. Bruce, please state your name and address.
Good evening. And my name is Bruce Hillegeist, president of the Greater Tomball Area Chamber of Commerce. 15300 Patton Road, number 2129, Houston, Texas 77070. I'm here tonight on behalf of the board of directors, staff, and volunteers to thank the city for its in-kind services that were used during Saturday morning's Tomball Holiday Parade. It was our 57th annual. And I know that when the police, fire, EMS, public works, got there that morning, when we wake up and we already know what the forecast says, but you hear the rain. It's like, man, can't I just stay in bed a little longer and just not know this thing? We even had somebody say, why don't we hold off and have it tomorrow? Well, we wish we could, but there's so much that depends on it being at that time. And we are unable to just move it to another day. So it's always rain or shine unless there's light. And let me tell you that we have been through a lot over the years with beautiful weather and with bad weather. You know, the weather it has to rain, and the sun's going to shine. We've had both, and we've come to realize that really when we've had a tough day like we did on Saturday, that when it's all said and done, it seems like the more challenging it is, the more that people bond together. When it's all said and done, you high five and, you know, you're just happy because not just because it's done, because you worked extra hard together. And that's what Tomball is all about. But we just thank the city for its in-kind donations, and the chamber couldn't do what we do to promote Tomball and its business community here without our beloved city. So thank you so much.
Hey, well,
Yes,
I would just like to thank all the public who came out and sat through the wonderful weather we had and enjoyed the parade. It was there were some troopers out there,
mhm.
so thank you.
It was a lot of fun. And that evening at the Miss Tomball contest, I'm sure Bruce will be bringing the new Miss Tomball to council, Annalise Garrison, contestant number 1 in your books. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak on any item? Okay, we will close public comments. Next is presentation. Is Mr. Gerhardt here? Okay, we will put that on the next agenda item. That be all right? Okay, all right. The next presentation is Hyacinth Battery Energy Storage.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jared Smith. I'm the city planner for the city of Tomball. I just wanted to briefly. Hello. All right. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Jared Smith, city planner for the city of Tomball. Just wanted to briefly introduce the next group who will be giving a presentation to you all. You all may recall a couple of months ago, receiving a presentation from a group that wanted to bring a new innovative idea to our city. They were wanting to store energy using batteries near our downtown area over off Lizzie Lane. And they presented to you all and collected your comments and concerns. And I believe they've gone back to the drawing board and would like to now represent kind of a modified vision of what they want to do. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Hyacinth Battery to you. Thank you. Thanks.
Mayor and council members, Micah King with Hush Blackwell. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for the introduction and testing the mic for me, Jared. We came to you a few months ago and got feedback from you all and from the neighbors. And so I reached out to some of you, or I think all of you, by email several weeks ago. And some of you asked that we come back and present in public forum. And so that's why we're here tonight to update you all at the same time. And so a brief presentation for you all just to show you what is new and changed and gather your input. So pull this up. Let's see. There we go. Okay. All right, so the proposed developer is Apex Clean Energy, and the project is called Hyacinth. And this is a battery storage facility. So I wanted to update you on the proposed new location, which is nearby, but on a different site. Talk about some of the buffering that we're proposing, safety and security, zoning issues, restrictions that we're proposing to impose on ourselves in order to address some of the concerns that we've heard. And then also an update from our discussions with the EDC about ways that we can be a good community partner. And, Apex wants to come into a community and share in the wealth and be a good community partner, not just extract. And so while there are benefits from this kind of infrastructure projects inherently, we want to go above and beyond that for sure. So the first slide here shows you the previous location that we had proposed. Again, this is very preliminary. This is really the first round of, or second round of discussions. As part of this process, we're looking at a very deliberate months or even years long process. We're going through an ERCOT interconnectivity study right now. So there's a state level approval. It would also require adding battery storage as a defined use in the code, and making it a conditional use is what we would propose, so that we would have to come back to council, actually come back to P&Z first with a site plan. They can add conditions of approval, and then it would come back to council before anything gets approved. So we're talking about a long process here. The red is where the previous site was, and we heard concerns from neighbors, especially to the north and northeast. And so we've gone to a different seller. So the area in the green hash marks is the proposed new site. It's actually circled in yellow. And so we would have to buy all of that. You can see the existing center point substation in yellow to the top right of your screen. And then the green hash marks is where we would limit the battery storage use upon council approval. So it would not take up the entire site. In addition, on the northernmost part of the property adjacent to the single family homes on that side of the property, we would propose to add a deed restriction to in perpetuity prohibit any battery storage use of that part of the property. And so that would apply to the property and run with the land and be binding on any assigns or successors and interests of that land. That is also the location of a potential partnership with the city in terms of providing a structured parking garage. We've been in discussions with EDC about potentially working out some sort of agreement with the city to provide structured parking there for events like the German Fest, which has some parking needs, as you know. This is just showing potential access off of Mechanic Road or Drive on the north side of the property. In terms of setbacks and buffers, we measured from the nearest residential structure to the actual battery storage part of the property. And that's giving us a minimum of about 370 feet for safety and compatibility setbacks. Most residences would be even further away from that. This property, by the way, is already zoned for industrial uses, and it's indicated industrial and business park on the future land use map. The previous site, I think, was zoned in industrial, but had some residential on the flum. So this one, this portion of the property is exclusively designated for industrial in the comprehensive plan. Wanted to show you points of view from the two nearest residential streets. These are to the west. And that's the view from one of the streets. You're really looking into trees, and then beyond that is property we don't own. And then you go another 300 plus feet before you even get to our site. An adjacent street, also looking towards the site. You can see the gravel mounds there that are on a site that's adjacent to ours. So there's the gravel between us and that street. And then there's the battery storage use over 300 feet away. So you have a natural barrier of you can kind of see a railroad there. It's about 5 to 6 feet above grade. So you have that natural buffer. And then you have the gravel mounds. And then beyond that would be additional land, and then security fencing, and then the pods for the battery storage, which would be no more than 8 to 10 feet tall. So these are like small storage containers. So very discreet, very hidden away. You wouldn't notice it if you're in the neighborhood. And you would have a very safe separation distance as well. Why this location? Why is it so important? Well, first of all, battery storage needs to be very close to the substation that it's connected to. And the Tomball substation is a very critical piece of our state's electric grid. It is part of the North to Houston constraint. There are just, I think, 5 major lines running between the Houston area north. And if the Tomball station goes down, it's one of the substations that if it goes down, it can affect the entire statewide grid. And so having things like fast frequency response, where you have battery storage that can click on almost instantaneously if a battery generator or an energy generator goes down, that you can have this batteries take over and flip on immediately almost. It's very important for grid resiliency in Tomball and throughout the state. There's some other benefits there, of course. Property tax revenue, environmental, future-proofing our energy grid, and so forth. Apex, like I mentioned, wants to be a good community partner, and I won't belabor that point, but we do want to, as part of this exploratory process, discuss that, see if it's of interest to the council and residents. And we're not asking for an up or down vote tonight. No actions requested, but we do want any input you want to provide. We understand the concerns and we're trying to adjust. Battery storage is evolving very quickly in terms of technology and safety and even what it's made out of. And so that we think that it's, if we built today, it would be safe, and in a year it'll be even safer than that. So we have a whole team here ready to answer your questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council?
You can't. It's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, too.
I've got several. We can have him come back up, that would be really nice.
Yes. We do have some questions.
So if you can go back to where the location is at, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Try to.
I'll be right there. So the previous location that we were talking about, or where y'all are asking us to get permission, is that area there.
In the red, yeah.
Moving it that little amount, how does that affect fire situations? Lithium batteries burn dirty. Let's face it, lithium is a nasty, nasty fire. So if we're making storage areas out of lithium, our prevailing winds for our city are out of the southeast. We've got numerous homes, we've got numerous businesses over in that area that would take any smoke residue over our city. That small amount, how does that help the folks that live in the immediate area?
So I think that, well, one, let me go back. That's a good question. So we're shifting it further from the properties to the north. So we're moving it south, and then the houses that it would be closest to have enough separation distance that we don't think that there is any risk to them. Fire is not as big of a concern as it has been in the past with batteries. The technology's improved, the safety's improved, and we'll definitely have modeling of worst case scenario, what would happen. And so we would like to bring that back to council with our modeling and have engineers present on that specific aspect of it, if you'd like.
I would certainly have to see what they bring to us before I could even think about taking this on. We have an entire community that we have to worry about, not just a company that's supplying electricity. And so you have a previous fire chief, you have myself, I was a firefighter for 9 years in our community. Safety is of the utmost importance to our community, period. And if there's also even a minute possibility that this could cause harm to the families, I'll try to do my best to do it. I can do to stand against it, because that's kind of the way I am. The other question I have is if we allow you all to build this here, is there any way we can get guarantees as a city that if our substation goes down, that we get first dibs on the power for our citizenry?
So that's a good question. So, so let me go back to your first point. Yeah, I grew up in this area. I'm spending Thanksgiving in Magnolia, but live in Austin now. Don't hold that against me.
We do.
But when our grid went down there during the winter storm, a lot of people died. I mean, throughout the state. And so can you eliminate the risk completely from any use? Probably not, but there's also a balance. And so we think that grid resiliency, especially in severe storm events, is important. And then on the second point, that because of the interconnectivity of the grid, I don't know how to guarantee that, you know, people in Tomball get power, but I think it would naturally benefit them. But I think we need a ERCOT answer on that.
For a long time, this community got free gas because of all the gas wells that were drilled here. I'm not asking you to do it for free, but I am asking you that we have connectivity to our community, because if we're going to place something here in our community and we're taking on that risk, there should be some kind of reward. And that reward to me would be that our citizens have power in times of need.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this substation serves the people of Tomball, and it will be connected to this substation. We looked at other substations. The nearest ones are too far away to really benefit Tomball, or they don't have adjacent sites that are available for battery storage. There's just not space available. So this is the best place to benefit Tomball.
And I understand that, and I'm not asking you to commit, but I am asking you because we got a lot of constituents out here, there's the press out here. We're gonna have a lot of people saying, well, if we're gonna do this and we're gonna take this liability and risk on to our community, we should have some return on our investment.
Yeah, agree.
Can you go back to how you would do first of all, how much vehicle traffic is involved in this?
After construction, almost none. So this is monitored 24/7 remotely, but it doesn't have on-site personnel. Pretty much operates itself. So there won't be any traffic generation except from maintenance, landscaping maintenance, and that sort of thing.
How would you come in and out of it?
So it would probably be from Mechanic on the north side.
And then go down Lizzie Lane or go down Chestnut?
Go into the property itself. So
No, I'm talking about, you're bringing trucks in, because you go to the north there, you've got to go by a venue that has people there 6 days a week, so evenings and everything. And the other way, it's going to make you go down Lizzie Lane. That was one of the complaints they had. They didn't need any more traffic on that.
So we would need to work with development services on the exact route for construction. One thing that we are considering and need to work with the railroad with is bringing in the pods via rail car. So there's the railroad going through the property on the west side. And so ideally we would actually just bring those in by rail car. We can't guarantee that at this stage. That has to, be flushed out over the coming months, but that would be the ideal scenario.
Have you always been thought about water retention and detention, because this area over here is susceptible to flooding? And if you're pouring pads to set pods on, then we're gonna have a lot of concrete poured, which is gonna mean we're gonna have a lot of more runoff in the area.
Yeah, I think there's been a history of water issues in this area. One of the things we would like to do is help address those problems. In addition, in terms of impervious cover, this is a large property. I don't think that we'll need to utilize the entire maximum impervious cover allowed. You know, it's a pretty compact site compared to the entire overall property. And then we would certainly comply with any stormwater detention requirements that the city impose.
David, where's our closest outfall for this property?
That'd be that channel that's just south of Lizzie Lane that outfalls into Persimmon.
Are we gonna be able to handle that amount of water coming off of that property where we've already got issues down in there?
I think the capacity there, the challenge is getting the outfall to go that way. The grade does break there in between where Trent it transitions into Lizzie and Chestnut, and the rest of that goes north. There is that possibility taking it north to the Harris County Flood Control channel that's right there at that business park.
I just don't want to take any more water down on Lizzie if we can help it.
I think the standard that would be to ensure that post-development, you don't have any additional adverse flooding impact as compared to existing conditions. And so building a stormwater detention that can capture in excess of a 100-year flood event under Atlas data. And that's something we can put on the site plan when we, assuming we get that far, we take it to P and Z and then come back to you all, that would be depicted on the site plan.
David, I'd like to see a town hall on this before we vote as a council, so that the citizenry has an opportunity to have their input as well.
I assume you have other facilities like this around. Do any of them have fire suppression systems on them in case they catch fire?
They all have safety features, and I think what features they have has changed over time as the technologies evolve. We have one of our fire safety experts here.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Warner. I'm a co-founder and principal of Energy Safety Response Group. We are here representing Apex Clean Energy on this project and working with them on the projects around the state of Texas. To answer your question directly, as Michael alluded to, the energy storage industry has been evolving quite rapidly over the last few years. A lot of the systems that were installed 2, 3, 5 years ago really don't have any suppression systems or have unvalidated suppression systems. Over the course of the last year or two, there's been tremendous evolution in the code safety regulatory landscape for energy storage systems. And so now when a system is installed, there are a number of different criteria that mandate whether or not suppression is necessary. In this particular case, because the system is greater than 100 feet from any other adjacent exposure, there's not an automatic requirement for fire suppression. Within the fire code, there is a requirement for large scale fire testing of these systems before they can be installed. And within that large scale fire test, you need to validate that suppression won't be necessary. If you have a failure in the system can either manage that failure safely, or if the battery does catch on fire and burn, that it can do so in a safe manner without posing the risk to either adjacent systems or to the environment around it. So that'll have to be validated in testing before this can be deployed, period.
The systems that you do have fire suppression systems on them, what type of fire suppression systems are they?
It varies pretty greatly. In the early days, there was a big push to install clean agent systems, like you might see in a data center. These are a gas phase agent that works in a couple of different ways chemically to suppress fire. In some cases, it acts to cool the space. In some cases, it acts to bond oxygen for the combustion. Those were never really well validated in testing. So the general trend in industry has been to move away from those. The move now for most systems, especially remote systems such as this, is to build the system in a way that battery either the failure doesn't propagate beyond a single cell or maybe a few cells in the system,
Or if it does, the system can burn in a safe manner or burn in a way that the fire department can respond safely to the system to suppress it. Screw that in, very few of the systems are actually being installed around the country now, having a kind of suppression of the metal. They have deflagration protection in case there's an accumulation of gas and explosion risk, but none of them really have active suppression systems. Some might have a fire department connection, so the fire department can come up, blow water into the battery and potentially manage it. But even in cases when an FDC is installed, it's usually advised against using it until the end of the event or under extreme situations where water is necessary if you have, say, a life safety issue or some kind of environmental concern. The suppression actually is very common, but the industry through everything they want to go through the years is building batteries that will be required.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And there's been a request to have a public hearing on this.
Yes,
or
for
workshop.
clarification, I mean, it does have to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and they do have public hearing. Would that be sufficient to collect the public comment or do you want to like to see it a separate thing?
Well, I mean, if we look at the area that could potentially be affected, like I said, our prevailing wind southeast, so we're worried about what's happening up to the northwest. But we also have northerners in the wintertime and they come in and they blow the potential smoke down on the residences close at hand, which is basically part of our southern part of our community. I mean, I'm open to looking at this. But I do want to make sure that we have some kind of ability for our citizens to have some input. Yes. Yeah.
So I do a lot of large scale battery fire testing. In fact, in the last month, I've burned 2 different 30,000 pound battery systems. We do it in a fairly remote part of our town, but we still have concerns about the community. Typically, the wind will blow in a direction that, give us a good way with what the systems are. We do have cases where the wind direction changes and blows in a way that is problematic. To be entirely honest, the local town problem child is actually just up the valley if the wind is blowing along. Everybody's got to be careful about managing any gas that may blow up there. We've been incredibly successful in using standard fogging patterns with fire truck service hydraulic ventilation, manage the off gas coming off of these batteries. We learned that technique over the last couple of years, been incredibly effective at managing it. With that said, more often than not, when these things burn, you made the comment that they're lithium and they burn hot. Lithium is actually a relatively small portion of the battery by mass. In fact, the total enclosure, if you weigh the whole thing, lithium is going to be less than 1%. It's actually contained deep inside the battery. So the metal fire, the high temperature hydrogen reaction, things like that, people are used to seeing really as an issue with lithium-ion batteries. Ultimately, each individual cell has a hydrocarbon. When it gets hot, it builds up, it vents. It's probably more equivalent to a propane tank fire, or metal fire, or anything else. If you just want to spray the outside of the system in terms of fire management, yeah, it's very difficult to put that fire out. But in terms of protecting adjacent exposures and managing the off gas, the industry has shown a tremendous amount of success in being able to do that with the equipment that the fire department probably has now, the techniques they're used to using. I have no concern, especially if you look at 70 feet, about their ability to manage any kind of gas or environmental release from the site. Michael alluded to, foam analysis has become a fairly standard survey for these systems. We're still a couple of years out, so I'm sure the techniques will continue to improve. There's actually been within that large scale testing standard I alluded to earlier, there used to be a requirement to monitor for toxic gases. It's actually been removed because the amount of toxic gas production in the city typically was less than what you would expect to see from the equivalent amount of plastic and certainly similar structured fire in modern houses, especially fire resistant carpet, fire resistant couches, things like that. They burn hot, they burn nasty. Lithium-ion batteries have not proven to be worse than that. There's actually been 2 different conference calls today where there's a focus in industry to go back and start collecting that data again, just to make sure that there haven't been changes in the systems that maybe increasing toxic output. But so far, everything we've seen in industry in the direction we want for the next 2 years is be in a direction to continue to minimize that concern, make sure the system problem because it does come up a lot.
I just know that nuclear power plants were deemed really, really safe until they had the first event where the nuclear power plant melted. And then it became Chernobyl and a couple of other places that you're old enough to remember any of those places. This is nothing compared to that, and I understand it. But I don't want Tomball, Texas to be the place where the first failure occurs and we start having problems with our citizens. Sure, it's not worth it. As long as I'm on this council, to watch any of our citizens be hurt by something we decide is okay.
Yeah, I don't think fires are a concern, but I don't think they're as common as people think, and I think most of them applies that by him. As in terms of testing and trying to make
That's arson.
it. But I think control fire.
There's been about a dozen battery failures around the western world in the last couple of years. All of those have been managed safely, with one exception in Arizona a couple of years ago where several firefighters were hurt. It's a fairly complicated situation. There have been no additional injuries. The water usage on these things from management has gotten better. We all know the subject matter experts, radioactive operators, has gotten better. I was actually just up in Temple this week training the fire department systems that are going up there. We'll be down there at least once, if not a couple of times, to train the Tomball department. They'll have an emergency response plan for how to handle this. We'll have any and all possible failures of this system addressed in that plan. Because we don't want this running in the neighborhood.
So thanks. We're staying in hand with the local fire departments, and then you actually just get fire.
Yeah, as a volunteer dad, actually, my father just hit 50 years this year, and he's involved in our testing, so I love the fire departments. Improve the safety of these systems, but also work with fire departments when he's doing in the community to make sure they're as safe as possible.
Like I said, I'm willing to listen. That's all I can do.
Time comes, we'll have data and analysis and everything else.
But back to your question, David, yes, I don't have a problem, as long as the people in the area are duly notified. I'm just thinking that if you have something like this going on, you're gonna have a lot more people attend than something that can probably fit in chambers during a P and Z meeting. That's my only concern.
Okay. And we'll make sure that we look at that notification area and increase it as needed. From the 300.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be more than 300,
It needs to be,
half a mile,
yeah, it needs to
I
be
mean,
a lot more.
to be honest. Would you agree?
Otherwise,
I mean, Joe, do you agree that we should have at least a half a mile, entertain comments from people within a half a mile radius of this area?
I think you'd look at what a plume model would show.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
once you get some sort of plume modeling, then you can just decide, what your notification distance should be.
Okay. And I'm fine with that, David. Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Next item is announcements. November 24th and 25th, Thanksgiving holidays, city offices closed. December 3rd is Holiday Heroes, hosted by members of the Tomball Police, Fire, and Public Works Department in collaboration with Northwest Community Health. Breakfast and one-on-one shopping with children for Christmas holidays. So that's 8 a.m. at the community center. December 3rd, Deck the Depot Plaza 10 to 2. December 9th and 10, Spring Creek County Historical Association on Museum Annual Candlelight Tour and Holiday Open House, 6 to 9 on Friday and Saturday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, December 9th through 11th, the German Christmas Market. December 23rd through 26th, Christmas holidays is closed. January 2nd, holidays closed. And the next item is reports by Sasha on the success of the Depot Day and the lighted up tree lighting.
David, is it possible to buy another mic that's identical to this one? So that they can have a standby switch out?
Yes.
All right, it works. Good evening, Mayor and Council. All right, so let me show you this presentations. Depot Day took place on November 12th. And it was an annual event that takes place during the National Railroad Month in Tomball. And we partner with our volunteers who present various models to the public, as well as the G-scalers come out and they show their amazing model at the depot as well. And it brings a lot of people to the depot, new people, families, and railroad enthusiasts as well. It brought around 600 people to the depot, and lots of people learned about our museum and enjoyed the models that were inside the depot museum and the caboose. Overall, it was a great event, successful despite the cold weather, but everybody enjoyed it. Any questions about Depot Day? And next item is the Christmas tree lighting, which took place on November 18th on Saturday. We dealt with a lot of unpredictable weather, but overall it was a very beautiful and well-attended event, at least at the beginning part of it, before the rain started. Yes, we had an artificial snow machine, which was a huge hit, and this is a picture taken in Tomball. Yes. And we have an amazing performance by the elves. This is a Just Dance class from Tomball Community Center. They were really excited to be there. And we're grateful that they were there performing in the cold and rainy weather. Public loved it as well. And of course, various pictures with the tree. Lots of families attended the event. The free hot chocolate and popcorn were a great hit and really helped out to warm up during those cold moments. And kids and adults alike enjoyed the snow machine. So it truly created a magical experience for the kids and the families. And we think it started off the holiday season successfully for everybody in Tomball and those who visited. This is Santa and some volunteers and staff. And this is Gary from the community center wearing Buddy the Elf costume. Gary deserved the Employee of the Year award because he was amazing. Our magical performers, more families, and Jeff Cook, who saved us and was just working that snow machine magically. And then very thankful for people who were dressed in Christmas sweaters. That's all. Definitely lots of Santa pictures were taken that night, and we also encourage people to come on December 3rd because we're going to have free pictures with Santa there as well. And yeah, that was our magical experience. Any questions? Thank you all so much. It was great.
Thank you very much, Sasha, for all the work that you've done.
Thank you. It was a great honor.
Thank you. Okay, oh, this is consent agenda. Before we vote on that, I will tell you that item 2, ordinance number 2022-38 has been removed from the consent agenda, and we will take no action tonight. It is moved to be on, scheduled to be on the December 5th agenda. So on the 2 items that are on the old business consent agenda, item 1 and item 3, do I have a motion to approve items 1 and item 3 of the old business consent agenda?
We'll move. Second.
Any discussion? No discussion. Call for the vote.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item is the new business consent agenda. items 1 through 7. So I would like to make a motion call for a motion for the new business consent agenda items 1 through 7.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, call for the vote.
Aye.
Just for the public, most of the items, all of the items in items 1 through 7
Motion
were-
carries unanimously.
were in budget items approval for purchase. So. New business. Next item on the agenda is to receive a presentation on iChooser regarding the Texas Power Switch Program and provide staff direction. Number.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is to receive a presentation from consultants, sorry, with iChooser regarding the Texas Power Switch Program. Currently, the city of Tomball does participate in their residential program, and that memorandum of understanding will end in February. The presentation tonight will go over their residential program as well as the solar power. Fred and Kelly with iChooser will make their presentation, and staff is seeking direction for the memorandum of understandings that we are working for the December 5th agenda.
Thank you, Megan.
Hello, thank you, Mayor and Council, David, for having us here tonight. We are here to present an overview of the Texas Power Switch, an update on how things are going and some key dates. And then after I do that, I'll hand it over to Fred, and then he can fill you in on some new initiatives and make a mention the solar. So again, my name is Kelly Balch. I'm here with my colleague, Fred Wu. We work for iChooser, and iChooser runs group buying programs for residential residents in the state of Texas. We have been in Texas with Texas Power Switch since 2017. We offer group buying programs at no cost to the city, no cost to the residents, and there's no obligation for residents to participate. We're currently working with 19 municipalities in Texas. We're going to be entering our 17th program in January. Our U.S. operations are headquartered in Austin. We do have a bilingual customer care team in Houston. To date, we have helped over 52,000 Texans participate in the program, and that equates to over 10.5 million in electric bill savings. Why do we work with cities? So we offer a program that helps residents group together and use the power of group buying to secure fixed rate competitive electric rates. The problem is the majority of the state is deregulated, but most do not exercise the opportunity, their option to switch providers and change rates. Thus, they pay too much. So this program, although it's available to everyone who lives in a deregulated part of the state, not everybody knows about it. So we work with cities to help get the word out and help message to residents so that they know that this is an option. Again, there is no cost to the city to do this. There's very little effort required of the city to help us message out. And there is zero risk because there is no obligation to participate in the program and zero pressure. The way this works, and I should have grabbed my glasses, what we do is we invite everyone to register for the program. They can find out if they can get a better rate. They're simply signing up. It takes about 5 minutes. About a month after that, we conduct a reverse auction where the lowest rate wins. Keep in mind, all of the providers that we work with are thoroughly vetted. We make sure that they have a clean complaint history with the Public Utility Commission of Texas. They have to be licensed and they have to have been in business for a certain amount of time. After that, we identify who the winning provider is. We send out personalized offers to everyone who registered, And it is then up to each individual if they want to accept an offer or not. If they do nothing, nothing happens. They have to provide affirmative consent. After that, the program closes. However, the switch window, they have to make a decision by a particular date. However, we have a switch window so that it extends beyond the decision date. So if you have a contract that's ending, say, a month after the decision period ends, you can switch so that you don't incur any early termination fees with your current provider. So the benefits to your residents, again, it provides education first and foremost. Not everyone is going to accept an offer, but they're going to know that they have a choice, and they're going to use that perhaps to price compare, to go back to their current provider to negotiate better rates. It also offers price protection for market volatility. Again, these are fixed rate plans so that, I guess, hopefully we don't have another event, a weather event this winter, but people that aren't on fixed rate prices are subject to rate increases every month. Bill control and predictability, again, it goes back to the fixed rate plan. Equity, it gives everybody in your community an opportunity to take advantage of a program that anyone can benefit from. And it's a positive impact on the environment. A couple of years ago, we moved to completely 100% renewable products at no sacrifice to savings. How does this work in the city of Tomball? So we ran our first auction in Tomball in April of 2019. We do run 3 programs a year so that everyone has an opportunity to participate at a time when it makes sense with their own personal contract. Again, they're only 100% renewable plans. Key is fixed rate. They're typically, the rates come in about 20 to 25% below the market average on the day of the auction. And we have typically saved residents an average of $716. What does that mean for Tomball? We've had to date over 4,000 residents participate in the program, and of that, a quarter have accepted their offers. That equates to about $716,000. And the way we like to look at this is the savings. You can look at that as saving the equivalent of a significant portion of your city taxes, right? That you otherwise would have overpaid to your provider. And then because we did move to renewable products, there is quite a significant environmental impact, as you see here. We do have the next program, like I mentioned, coming up in January. The auction is going to be on January 17th. Again, you'll see that switch window is extended. So should you accept an offer, you can schedule that to occur anytime up to May 9th. And then after that, the following auction will be the next April. These are the cities we're currently working with. So you can see a snapshot. The largest city that we're working with today, I believe, is McAllen, and Waco is the second largest city that we're working with. And then do you have any questions for me about the power switch?
Is this program open to other people outside of Tomball as well?
It is. Anybody can participate in the program as long as they live in a deregulated part of the state.
Okay. And you also mentioned this is only for single family residents.
It's for resident. Well, it could be for multi-family if someone lives in an apartment complex that doesn't dictate the provider.
Do you have any programs for like small businesses here in town or in the area?
We're looking to let small businesses participate, and where that is something that several of the cities have asked for. That's come up quite a bit mostly from residents who have participated and own small businesses.
Okay.
So yes, we are looking into that.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I was involved in your first auction, I guess, here, and loved the opportunity. Unfortunately, I missed the notice that we needed to do the next one. Is there any way you can take that offer or take that registration and put it in a 44-inch by 44-inch envelope that you can't miss? No, I'm just kidding.
But we do a lot more outreach. So as we get people's email addresses and we've done text notifications, mind you, you can opt out of any of this. So
I think y'all do an excellent job. Thank y'all for doing it.
Thank you so
And
much.
how do you send out the notices for people to sign up?
Yeah,
We will send out a direct mailer and that is at our expense. We send out a direct mailer. If somebody's already participating, we will remove them from the list because we don't want to inundate people with.
can we put it on our website for a place
Yes.
for people to register to accept this? I mean, I think that'd be a service to our, and maybe even put it in our water bills notification, something just to help.
Right.
I'll say this, the first time it came up, I registered, got my rate. I was with a company that my rate was still lower than what was on. But this last time, about a year ago, I renewed with the company that I'd been with for years. And then all of a sudden I got my rate and it was a substantial savings. And it was substantial enough for me to pay the fees to get out from the other company. And I'm on a 3-year deal, paying 5.3 cents.
Sign me up right now.
Well, do you know the rate before the switch or do you do the rate after the
As
switch?
soon as we have the auction, we'll work with the winning provider to put together the pricing. We'll narrow it, get that all settled, squared away. Then we will send out to everyone who registered a personal offer. So you'll know the rates and they will be broken out. So you'll know what the energy charge is, like you mentioned, plus the center point delivery charges.
We need, then we can do it, either our citizens help, I think.
And that is truly the purpose of the MOU is to, once council decide that we want to participate, they can, we can do all of those things that you asked, so we can help promote that, so make sure people understand about it.
Any additional questions?
Any
for
other
me?
questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it along.
All right, thank you, Mayor, council members, city manager. Really happy to share with you all how the Texas Solar Switch program works. Also implemented by iChooser. This is actually one of the programs that we've run in other country markets for many years now. We actually just finished our first solar group purchasing pilot program in summer 2022. It was in North Texas with 3 municipalities. And we're really excited. We're about to come back with our second and third rounds of this program. We're actually going to be working in the Houston area in a pretty large way. We'll be working with the city of Houston to launch the program. Just like the Texas Power Switch, the Solar Switch is intended to help really, in this case, homeowners aggregate their purchasing power. And if they're interested in solar, it's a great way for them to get a better deal together. So I mentioned we're working with 4 municipalities already. We would love to ask council if you're interested in offering this program to your residents as well. It's a great way to help folks who are interested in solar to save money and really get a really like a safeguarded deal for that product. And I'll try to share with you a little bit about some of the consumer protections we offer through the program. Just a brief history about some of the work that iChooser has done in this area. We've already helped over 135,000 homeowners go solar. It's quite a few, and we're really excited to help the market here locally as well in Tomball. Some of the folks that we work with, you may know iChooser is actually based in the Netherlands, even though Kelly and I are part of our US team. In other markets like the Netherlands, Belgium, UK, and Japan, and now in the US, we always work with community leaders to help promote this program. The one under the Netherlands is a national, essentially a homeowners association, where I believe 1 in 5 homeowners in the Netherlands belong to this group. And we really provide this service through that group. In Belgium, that's the province of West Flanders. In the UK, it's the city of London. And then in Japan, we listed the city of Osaka. And then on the far right, you can see some of the folks that we work with in our Texas programs to date. Farmers Branch, Fate, and Corinth, all north of Dallas. And then most recently, city of Houston. So we'll be launching with them here, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. What you can also see on this slide is we are able to get a great discount on behalf of consumers wherever we are. Actually, the cost of solar in some of these markets is probably 30, 40, 50% less than it is in the US currently. No matter what the pricing is in the market, this group aggregation scheme helps customers get a better deal. Really apologize. This is impossible to read, but this will be in the agenda packet. This is our personal offer, just like for Texas Power Switch. What we do for folks who register for our program for Texas Solar Switch, which is free and just takes a few minutes, is we want to send everybody a personal offer. And so in this case, we have for a rooftop solar system for your house, a proposed system size, pre-negotiated cost, which is already inclusive of the discount from the group purchase. We've got financing options available for consumers. We've got one specific winning installer that it's really been assigned to work with them. And so there's not you're going to get calls from 5 companies to go negotiate. And then we're really driving folks to, if they like this, there's no obligations, but they can accept their offer. And that's where they would move forward and talk to the installer. Some of the key benefits for this program, we think for your residents, we definitely have heard from almost every city that Kelly and I visited with here in Texas, sort of the residential solar permit requests kind of doubling every year. There's a lot of interest in Texas for solar. So if you have community members who are asking about solar, again, we think this is a great no cost way to support them in their journey to that investment. Typically, we're able to save residents 10 to 20% on their installation. So on a pretty expensive investment for your house, this is $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 that you're saving, ideally without having to negotiate with 3 to 4 companies and compare bids. Just like Texas Power Switch, we do a lot of work in terms of the installers or the service providers that can participate in this kind of group purchasing bid. Every solar contractor or installer that would be participating in Texas Solar Switch will have already been pre-vetted, pre-qualified for their workmanship history, financial stability, licensing, insurance, et cetera. So we really want to give consumers confidence that if they're interested in going solar, this is a great time and opportunity to do that. It has to be a hassle-free experience for residents. So one of the things that I consider a pretty big hassle in the current solar sales process is the door-to-door sales. And so what we like is we are essentially getting installers to compete against each other for the right to serve those customers without a homeowner having to deal with, again, 3 to 5 companies on their own. Local solar and battery storage, we do think increases resiliency in the community. Obviously, after Winter Storm Uri, there's been a lot of interest in terms of local self-generation, as well as the battery backup. And I know we've already had a presentation on that today. Some of the key upcoming dates, we'll be launching the Houston area group purchase actually pretty right away. We've got our auction coming up here December 7th. Similar to Power Switch, that'll be a reverse auction, competitive bidding process where the private market can let us know what's the most cost effectively they can do these jobs for. We'll be sending out all the personal offers by mid-January. Folks have until February to decide if they'd like to move forward. And then we'd really love to be helping hundreds of homeowners in the Houston area get solar installed here this spring and early summer. With that, I think that's the last slide I have. The items for council consideration, obviously to consider renewing and reauthorizing the MOU for Texas Power Switch. And then Texas Solar Switch is a new program that y'all may choose to opt into, and we certainly hope you will. With that, I'll open to any questions that you might have.
Can you go back to your first slide for this?
Sure.
Right there, no cost program, yet we see a cost. That's always been a stickler with me. Is there a cost or is it no cost?
Yeah, so I guess there's no direct cost to the city. We're asking for your non-financial
Is it
support.
no cost program eligible to Texas for residents in all areas, and then you say it's going to be a $13,000 or thereabouts.
Did I say 13,000? Did I mean?
Look at you go back to your your example. No, go ahead and forward.
Discounted in that.
Right there.
Okay, so this is showing the proposed cost of the system for solar at your home. And then the discount would have already been built into this. I think in this auction, we had about a 14% discount. And so I think we were saying that's about $3,800 that this homeowner would have saved compared to what would have been quoted essentially at the door. Yeah, so we would consider there's no cost to the resident to participate. You can register for free. You can access the discount without paying additional. There's no membership fee or anything like that. And then certainly on the city side, again, we're asking for primarily your non-financial support to communicate the program and let your residents know about it. Everything else that is a paid aspect of the program is really borne by iChooser.
How long does a program like this go on for our homeowner if they sign up for it?
Sure, that's a good question. So we try to keep it pretty tight, which is if you're interested in solar, we would like to strike while the iron's hot and get you that service. So in this case, it's a pretty tight installation window. I think it's 4 months long. So when we work with installers, we ensure that they really have the capacity and the installation crews to do this type of work.
But does the homeowner sign a contract with somebody?
They do, yeah. They would sign the contract, a final contract directly with the installation company. So that's not a contract directly with iChooser, the city, or anybody else.
Okay, so let me ask you this. They sign a contract. 2 years from now, they sell their home. The new buyer of the house. Who's responsible for that contract? The person who signed it or the new homeowner who did not?
Yeah, so my understanding that is going to convey with the home in terms of essentially a lien against it. I would welcome some clarification on that if anybody else can help me. It's a good question. I should be a bit better prepared to answer that.
Because I've heard of these programs with people that get solar, they go to sell their homes, didn't realize what they set themselves up for.
Yeah.
And find out.
Sure.
They can't sell their home. Because
Sure.
new buyers don't want to, they're not going to take on that liability. Or if they do sell their home, the new buyer doesn't, they're not liable because they didn't sign the contract.
Sure.
So I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I think we've certainly heard some horror stories out there. So there's a lot of folks out there offering essentially free solar. And essentially they may be trying to lease your rooftop and sell you electricity. Those can be pretty bad sort of getting into. It's easy to get into, hard to get out of, let's say. Ideally, in our case, we're providing safeguards in terms of really warranty and workmanship guarantees. And then what I'd say is it's an investment decision that every homeowner needs to make with that in mind, which is this is a multi-year investment. Kelly might be able to help me with that.
I do know in just personal situations, people that I've known that have sold their homes, my husband's a realtor. They've negotiated, if they financed the panels, they've actually put that in a closing as they have to satisfy that debt, or they can negotiate to transfer that over to the new homeowner. So I think there are ways that you work around that. I mean, that's what I've seen personally, but we can get clarification and send you an email.
I
Actually,
mean, I would like clarification.
for sure.
The iChooser program that you promoted, I'm okay with because that's predominantly how everybody has their power, gets their power in that today. And with the city of Tomball's name attached to it, even though it's not our program, our name is on it promoting. I don't feel comfortable for us currently without more information, us having our name assigned or in conjunction with something that could potentially get a homeowner in trouble down the road if they go to sell a house, because I don't want anybody to ever look at me and say, the city of Tomball endorsed this program. Well, I don't want that liable.
We can definitely get clarification
Yeah.
on that. That would be very simple.
I have a question on the panels themselves. On your auction, the people who are coming to the auction to give you the best rate for your customers, is it their own solar fields that they have? Or are they getting the customers to put all the panels at the customer's residence?
It's on
the
site.
residence.
It's a rooftop
Okay.
solar. Yeah.
So it depends on, because we have solar panels,
Okay.
but not for the house. The amount of trees that we had negated the
Sure.
electricity. It wasn't going to be enough, and we didn't want any brown outages on our house. But we have it to heat a pool. But and so that is that's worked out, and it was an investment initially on the pool, but to heat it, but it did not have enough space at their house to heat, to do solar for the house because of the trees.
That's correct. Yeah.
So have you looked at that with all the trees that we have
Sure.
in Tomball? And that's
Yeah.
another reason that you don't see a lot of solar. We don't live in Arizona. We don't live down in, the valley. So
We actually
has
thought
that
we,
been looked at to see if solar is viable for a lot of the houses around here who have a lot of trees?
yeah, it's not viable for every house, depending on the size of your roof, your energy consumption, your shading, but there are a lot of great high potential sites here in Texas and in Houston.
Okay.
And so we have found a lot of interest, but that's one of the things that we would go through, which is if solar is not suitable for your home, even if you accept the offer, eventually we're going to figure this out, which is you're not going to generate as much electricity as we thought. The payback numbers change, and yeah, a homeowner can certainly look at that and say, well, the economics have changed. That's not something I do want to move forward with.
Well, it's worked well for the pool. Too bad it didn't
That's
work for
great.
the house.
Yep,
Very
solar
inexpensive.
is a major upfront investment. We expect the systems on your roof to last 20, 25, 30 years. The payback now is sub 10 years. There's a federal tax credit of 30% that people can take advantage of for the next many years. We really do think for a lot of folks, it's a great opportunity to kind of hedge or plan their energy costs. Because you can make that investment, ideally offset, say 70, 85% of your electricity usage, really reduce your bill. And again, it's a major upfront investment, but that's why there's a payback associated with it.
Any other questions? Is this going to be included in the P and Z Public, since y'all are presenting together as one company or presenting separately?
That'd be separate MOUs.
Okay, separate MOUs. All right, thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Next item on the agenda is consideration to approve case P 22-354. Jared.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Once again, my name is Jared Smith. I am the city planner for the city of Tomball. I'll be presenting P 22-354. This is an ordinance amendment that is being requested by the city of Tomball to revise section 50-116, which are our supplemental regulations, specifically subsection J, which are the site development standards for mobile food courts. So in 2016, many of you may be aware, the city of Tomball adopted ordinances which govern the development standards, as well as assigned a definition to mobile food courts. And according to the city of Tomball Code of Ordinance, currently, the mobile food court is defined as being a parcel of land where two or more mobile food vendors congregate to offer food or beverages for sale to the public as a principal land use of the property. The Code of Ordinance further clarifies that these mobile food courts shall not be interpreted to include a congregation of mobile food vendors as secondary, accessory, or temporary use. The mobile food courts are permitted with the approval of a conditional use permit in general retail zoning, commercial zoning, light industrial zoning, as well as Old Town and mixed use. And they are subject to additional standards outlined in section 50-116 subsection J. And the one standard that we are wanting to revise here, which is for your consideration this evening, is a limitation on the length of time that a mobile food vendor can be within a mobile food court. So in 2016, we adopted along with these standards a limitation which states mobile food vendors conducting business at a mobile food court shall not be located within the same mobile food court for a period in excess of 180 days. That same mobile food vendor shall not return to the same mobile food court for a period of 30 days. And it is this standard that we're wanting to remove from the Code of Ordinance. City staff believes that because mobile food courts are considered a principal land use for a given site, so should the individual mobile food vendors located within a mobile food court. And so we do not believe that they should be held to this restriction as far as how long they can actually be within a mobile food court, given that they are also considered a principal land use, which is different from how we treat most mobile food vendors, kind of underneath our peddlers and solicitors licensing elsewhere throughout the city, which are accessory and secondary to a principal use, a separate principal use. So that being said, city staff is recommending approval to you all today on this case, P 354, excuse me. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did consider this case during their November 14th hearing, and they were in agreement with staff. And they did feel that mobile food vendors should be considered a part of the principal land use and should not be held to this restriction to a limitation on how long they are to occupy these mobile food courts. And they too are recommending approval to you all today with 5 votes of A. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Okay, well, after the public hearing, the question.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes,
Jared.
ma'am.
The next item on the agenda is to conduct a public hearing for case P 22-213. It is now 7:16 PM. And we are opening the public hearing. Doris, is there anyone signed up? I have no one signed up. Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak that did not sign up? Okay. Then it is now 7:17 PM and we are closing the public hearing. I will entertain a motion to read by caption only on first reading ordinance 2022-40.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I call for the vote.
Aye.
Thank you, John. Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance number 2022-40, an ordinance of the city of Tomball, Texas, amending sections 50-116J site development standards mobile food courts, chapter 50 zoning of the Tomball Code of Ordinances by revising the standards governing mobile food vendors located within mobile food courts, providing for severability, providing for a penalty of an amount not to exceed $2,000 for each day of violation of any provision hereof, making findings of fact and providing for other related matters. Okay. I will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 2022-40 on first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Our next item on the agenda is executive session where we will consult with the city attorney regarding a matter which the attorney requires to be discussed in closed session. It is 7:20 PM and we will be going into executive session. We will be reconvening. There will be no votes taken. It will be just for adjournment. So you're welcome to stay.